Welcome back. Brand new video today. We're doing two NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Wednesday, November 6th. You guys, before we get started, link in the description below. Hop into the Discord, $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. Currently doing a special for first-time members of the Discord. 20% off your first month, comes out to around $7 for the full month. You guys, link in the description below again. Super positive community. That's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. Again, numerous other cappers in there as well. Link in the description below for that. Also want to mention I'm not a gambling expert, not financial advice. Somebody just plays on personally looking at making. Hopefully you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourself. Let's get into it, you guys. Two player props that I do like Wednesday, November 6th slate. We have a pretty massive slate overall. There was no NBA games yesterday, and just in general, like PrizePicks been lagging, in my opinion, on putting the board up. Normally by this time of day, the full fantasy score lines are all up, and we didn't get Taco Tuesday yesterday, so going to be definitely interesting to see what we get from PrizePicks. But like I said, massive NBA slate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 NBA games tonight. So 24 teams playing. I got two player props. Again, board is not nowhere near full, but based on the board, I got two player props that I do like. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. The first play I'm looking at here is going to be Josh Green, over 14.5 fantasy score. We look at Josh Green so far this season, definitely been an up and down year for him. He is in the starting lineup. He's a starter now for this Charlotte Hornets team. He's over this line in 3 of 5 games that he's played this season, right? 3 of 5 games. He missed 2 games earlier in this season due to injury. And he's, again, over in 3 of 5 games, 17.6, 21.9, and 18 fantasy are his 3 overs. Coming off a game where he did play his most minutes of the season, finished with 8 fantasy points just against Minnesota. And really his 2 unders are against 2 of the better wing defensive teams in the NBA, Minnesota and Boston. But looking at this most recent game for the Charlotte Hornets, he did play the most minutes of anyone on the team, which to me is an encouraging sign, right? We just want minutes here for such a low fantasy score line of 14.5. Minutes here is just going to be key. If he can get 23, 24 plus minutes, I think there's a ton of upside for this line to clear. But 14.5, again, for any NBA player, that's going to be a starter and going to see like around 20 to 25 minutes. I think is a little bit too low, right? We look at some odds here for Josh Green really quickly to get a steal tonight. Again, this is over on Outlier again, by the way. Link in the description. You get a 7-day free trial, an elite research betting tool that I do use. Over 0.5 steals is a goblin on PrizePicks. It's minus 200 on DraftKings, minus 225 on BetMGM, minus 225 on Bet365. The Detroit Pistons ranked 28th in the NBA in opponent steals. And again, in Josh Green, in this short season, right, in any game that he's had at least a steal, he's cleared the over on this line. And historically, like a player, if he gets a steal, that's 3 fantasy points. And he's not going to be, having a ton of ball handling. So the turnover should be, the turnover chances should be relatively low. And when we look at Josh Green in his career, when he plays 20 plus minutes and logs at least a steal, you can see right here, this column, his fantasy score totals. Essentially a game of 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. 6 points, 2 steals, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, along with a couple turnovers, should clear the over on this line relatively easy. And again, just even the short season that he's had, 5, 3, 2, 1, and 1 in 18 minutes is definitely an attainable line. And again, we only need 14.6 to clear the over on this one. We look at forwards, fantasy score game log this season versus the Pistons logging 20 plus minutes. This column right here. And forwards have obviously had massive games, and we're not saying Josh Green is Jason Tatum, LeBron, or AD, or Jimmy Butler, or Siakam. But just like I said, Jalen Wilson for the Brooklyn Nets, 22 minutes. He finished with 14.6, 8, 3, and 2. Haywood Highsmith, 4, 4, 1, and 2. In 21 minutes. So I think there's just a ton of upside here for him in this spot. I think, again, for this line to even be on the board at 14.5, I think is just way too low, in my opinion, in a game that does have, I believe this game, what is this, 1.5 point spread at home for Charlotte. Again, Cody Martin is probably going to play, but nonetheless, Nick Richards is out. I'm expecting Josh Green to play 23 plus minutes. If we go over to Outlier again, you can see here, if we go to his fantasy score line, fantasy score for Josh Green, 14.5. We go to last season, right? And let's just say when he played 23 plus minutes last season, or let's just say 24 minutes last season. He was over in 31 of 41 games, 76% hit rate, over in 31 of 41, averaging 20.04 fantasy points over those 41 games. So it's a great spot for Josh Green. I think just a little bit too low considering this game should be a close matchup. We know both these teams don't really like to play defense. So Josh Green over 14.5 fantasy is the first play. And then before getting into the second play, I want to talk about Daily Grind Fantasy. You guys, DFS Optimizer over at Daily Grind. This is a tool that I do use every day to add plays into my parlays. They do all the hard work for you. For example, like James Harden over 46.5 fantasy is the top play on the board, 55.04% odds to hit. Because like traditional sports books don't offer fantasy score lines, Caesars, based on his points, rebounds, plus assists, steals, field goal attempts, all those lines on Caesars. Daily Grind does the hard work and presents what their fantasy score line would be on this sports book, and it should be at 48.5 on Caesars, or sorry, BetMGM, not Caesars, BetMGM. It's at 46.5 on PrizePicks, giving us a 55.4% odds to hit, showing us these type of discrepancies. And again, if you're on NCAA, whatever, DP World Tour, golf, whatever sport you play on PrizePicks, underdog, if you're on Better Picks, Parlay Play, Sleeper, whatever platform you play on, they have a DFS optimizer for those platforms. So again, link in the description below can get you using promo code TUFF can get you 25% off your first month. But I'm mentioning this now because my second play is actually James Harden over 46.5 fantasy points. Again, only two games have fantasy score lines on the board right now, but at James Harden at 46.5, I actually picked this play before I even looked at the Daily Grind DFS Optimizer, so it being the top play on the DFS Optimizer to me supports my play even more here, showing this type of discrepancy. But the top play on the DFS Optimizer on Daily Grind is James Harden over 46.5 fantasy, and like I said, it is going to be the second play for this video. We look at James Harden. So far this season, he's over in 4 of 7, averaging 49.96 fantasy points over the 7 games. But the floor for this play is extremely high. His lowest fantasy score game this season is 42.6. Again, 46.5 is the line. So giving us a super high floor for this play to hit right in a competitive game. Right, 40 plus fantasy points is pretty much a lock for James Harden and the usage and the type of offense that he is playing in. We look at this game. This game is pretty close spread, I believe, 1.5 point spread at home for the Clippers. And like I said, we look at players' fantasy score game like this season versus 76ers in 32 plus minutes. I mean, I don't want to say comparable guards to James Harden just because the usage that he does get. But like Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard have both clearly over on this line. Scotty Barnes, 44 fantasy. All three of these guys kind of initiate offense in the half court, similar to James Harden. But again, none of these guys at the same time are similar to James Harden. Cade Cunningham, 39.5, shot 6 for 15 from the field. Also in that game, I believe Cade Cunningham had 5 turnovers, but he still finished with close to 40, which is why I like this floor here for James Harden. When we talk about James Harden, as far as players that have played 245 minutes this season, James Harden sitting right here at a 29.6% usage, which you can higher than Trae Young, Nikola Jokic, Devin Booker, De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Durant, etc. And we look at James Harden, even defensive rating, 76ers rank 9th worst defensive rating in the NBA. I know that they also rank in the bottom 3 pick and roll defense, which again is James Harden's bread and butter, obviously. The way he's able to manipulate the defenses with his pick and roll, right? Zubats has been playing extremely well this season, and he's been a great pick and roll partner for James Harden. James Harden also on the season averaging 16.1 potential assists per game, and I just think there's a ton of upside for him in his scoring ability, given how most likely Philly, none of these guys can really guard James Harden one-on-one. Again, I don't think there's a lot of players that can guard James Harden one-on-one, and also the revenge narrative. Paul George played with the Clippers, obviously, and James Harden played with the 76ers. Just a ton of upside for, I think, more field goal attempts and just that added revenge type of narrative. But like I said, game log this season for James Harden, with the usage he is seeing, he's over this line in 4 of 7 games, like I said. And I mean, the 4 games he's gone over, he's had 50 plus fantasy. In the 3 games he's gone under, he's had at least 42, giving us just a ton of upside overall. I know he's been trying to cut down on those turnovers as of late. But like I said, he can clear this over in a variety of different ways. He had 54.1 fantasy and only scored 12 points against OKC in 32 minutes, just showing us how he impacts the game in a variety of different ways. And his steals and his defensive upside has been there as well this season. He's got numerous games here with at least 2+ stocks, which obviously helps his fantasy score upside a ton. But again, Josh Green over 14.5, James Harden over 46.5 fantasy, both overs, YouTube plays. Wednesday, November 6th. Please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.